News Talk on Samar News, your go-to podcast for the latest headlines and in-depth discussions. Join us as we unravel the stories that matter most, bringing you insightful commentary and expert analysis. Tune in for thought-provoking conversations that spark dialogue and inspire action. Stay connected with the news that shapes our world, only on News Talk on Samar News.
Okay, so you might have seen some headlines lately about this whole U.S.-Canada thing, right? Like there's some tension.
Yeah, there's definitely something brewing up there for sure.
And you know, I was looking at this poll
Oh, yeah?
by Ledger, and it says that 20% of Americans want their state to just like secede and join Canada.
Really? 1 in 5 Americans?
That's crazy,
right?
That's huge.
So we're gonna dive into this whole thing today.
Yeah, let's unpack that.
And like try to figure out what's going on.
Absolutely. So we're looking at this Ledger poll from late March 2025.
Right.
And there's some really insightful analysis in this Newsweek article that we'll be looking at.
Perfect.
And for you, the listener, our goal today is to really understand, you know, what's driving this sentiment.
Yeah.
Why are so many Americans thinking about this? And what's the current state of the U.S.-Canada relationship? We want to cut through the noise, all the political rhetoric, and just give you the core insights.
Just the facts.
Yeah, just the facts on this. Pretty unexpected development.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
It is.
Okay, so this whole idea of Americans wanting to become Canadians.
Right.
It didn't just come out of nowhere.
No.
The article actually talks about like escalating tensions between the U.S. and Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like the spark was Trump and his tariffs on Canada.
Right, the tariffs, yeah. So for our listeners who might not be totally familiar with what a tariff is,
right,
essentially it's a tax on goods coming in from another country.
Okay.
So in this case, these tariffs on Canadian products, they're going to increase the cost for American businesses.
Okay.
And you, the listener, you might feel that increase in prices on the shelves.
Right. You'll see it in the grocery store.
Exactly.
So it's like a direct economic link.
It is, and that's likely contributing to the rising tensions.
Right.
It's hitting people's wallets.
Yeah. And it wasn't just the money thing either.
Right.
It was Trump also saying that he wants to make Canada the 51st state.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Like, can you imagine?
It was a pretty bold statement.
Yeah, and like, I don't think Canadians were too thrilled about that.
No, I mean, you know, in international relations, the language that leaders use matters.
Totally.
This kind of statement, regardless of the intention behind it, touches on some pretty sensitive issues.
Right, what?
National identity, you know, sovereignty.
Right.
It's about respecting a neighbor's independence.
Absolutely. So we have these trade disputes. We have this like undiplomatic language.
Right.
And then bam, we get this Ledger poll that's like, boom, 20% of Americans are like, peace out.
Yeah, they're looking north.
We're going to Canada.
Yeah.
But what about the Canadians?
Right. What about them?
Like, what are they thinking about all this?
Well, the poll actually shows a pretty big difference in how both countries view this whole thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So while 20% of Americans want to join Canada,
right,
only 9% of Canadians think that Canada would ever join the U.S.
Wow. So it's like a complete...
It's a huge gap.
Yeah. Totally opposite perspectives.
Exactly. It suggests a real difference in how they see the relationship.
And the future of it.
Exactly.
Okay, so this poll ran between March 21st and 24th, 2025.
Okay.
And they surveyed about 1,000 Americans and like 1,600 Canadians.
Gotcha. So a decent sample size.
Yeah, so it's like a pretty good snapshot of what people were feeling.
Right, at that moment in time.
Exactly.
And the timing is crucial.
Yeah.
This is right after those tariffs came in and those remarks from President Trump.
Right.
So it captures a very specific point in this whole back and forth.
Totally. Okay, so let's talk more about what Trump was actually saying.
Okay, let's dig in.
Calling Canada one of the nastiest countries to deal with.
Yeah.
That's pretty harsh.
It's definitely strong language.
And then he says that the U.S. is subsidizing Canada by like $200 billion a year.
Okay.
But the article then says that the U.S. Trade Representative Office actually reported a $63.3 billion trade deficit.
With Canada in 2024.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty big difference in those numbers.
It's not even close.
What we're seeing here is this potential disconnect between the rhetoric and the actual economic reality.
Right.
And that kind of discrepancy, it can be really damaging.
How so?
It can erode trust,
right,
understanding,
which
are super important for a stable relationship.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And it's also important to remember that not everyone in the U.S. even agreed with these tariffs.
Right.
The poll said only like 35% of Americans supported Trump's actions.
On Canadian imports.
Right. And then two-thirds of those surveyed were worried that the tariffs would mean higher prices at the grocery store.
That's a big deal.
Right. So it's like these high-level trade decisions are actually affecting your everyday life.
Yeah, that's a key point when economic policies start messing with the cost of food.
Right.
That's going to resonate with a lot of people.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. So on the Canadian side, Prime Minister Mark Carney basically said that the old relationship with the U.S. is over.
Wow.
And that Canada is going to like dramatically reduce its reliance on the U.S.
Okay, that's a pretty strong stand.
Yeah, he was not messing around.
What's interesting is this sense of independence there.
Oh, yeah.
Like, Carney is basically saying Canada's going to chart its own course.
Right.
And the quotes in the article really highlight that.
Give me an example.
He said, "We as Canadians have agency, we have power, we are masters in our own home, we can control our destiny."
Yeah, he's like, we don't need you.
Exactly.
And the article even says that flight bookings from Canada to the U.S. dropped by more than 70%.
Wow. That's a big hit to the tourism industry.
Yeah, so it's like these political tensions actually have real-world impacts.
Right. It's not just talk.
Yeah, people aren't traveling.
It affects businesses, personal connections.
Exactly. Okay, so what are the experts saying about all of this?
Yeah.
Well, this guy, William F. Hall from Webster University, he says that this whole idea of Americans wanting to join Canada, it reflects deep concerns about where America is headed.
Under Trump.
Yeah, exactly. Like, people are worried about his controversial policies.
Right.
And they want to escape policies that they feel aren't good for them.
Economically or politically.
Exactly.
So Hall's analysis is pointing to this dissatisfaction with the current situation in the U.S.
Right.
And they see Canada as this, like, better alternative.
Yeah, like a safe haven.
Right.
Okay, then we have Robert Shapiro from Columbia University.
Okay.
And he's got a different take.
Oh, yeah.
He says that for states that don't border Canada, these responses are more symbolic.
Okay.
Like a protest against Trump and what's happening in the U.S.
It's like a way to express their disapproval.
Yeah. And he even says that these feelings might not actually be that strong.
If it actually came down to it.
Right. Like if it was a real possibility.
Exactly.
So Shapiro is bringing in this idea of symbolic political expression.
It's a way to send a message. Right?
Without necessarily wanting to actually go through with it.
Exactly. But it seems like both experts agree on one thing.
What's that?
This poll is showing that people are unhappy.
With how things are going in the U.S.?
Yeah, Hall says there's a growing disillusionment with Trump.
Right.
And he even suggests that the honeymoon period after the 2024 election is ending.
So there's this sense of unease.
Yeah.
And disappointment.
Okay, so we can't forget about the legal side of all this.
Oh, right.
The article mentions the 14th Amendment, and states can't just secede from the U.S.
It's not that simple.
Yeah, and even if a state somehow did secede...
Which is highly unlikely.
Yeah, they wouldn't automatically lose their U.S. citizenship.
Right. It's just not how it works.
So basically, it's a very complicated situation, legally.
Understatement of the year.
So to sum it all up, we have a significant number of Americans who are saying, hey, maybe we should join Canada.
Okay.
And it seems like this is because of concerns about U.S. policies.
Right. Those tariffs, Trump's rhetoric. Exactly. And this has created tension between the two countries.
Big time.
Now, experts say this might be more of a symbolic protest
than a real plan.
And, of course, legally, it's pretty much impossible.
It's just not going to happen.
So we've got economics, politics, public opinion, and the law.
It's a fascinating mix.
All coming together in this, like, unexpected way.
Yeah, this poll really captures this unique moment.
In the U.S.-Canada relationship.
Totally.
So here's something for you to think about.
Okay.
Considering all these tensions and everything we've talked about, what do you think is going to happen to the relationship between the U.S. and Canada in the long run?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this plays out.
It's a big question.
We hope this deep dive has given you a better understanding of this whole U.S.-Canada situation.
Right.
And we encourage you to keep exploring the world of international relations.
Absolutely.
It's a complex and ever-changing landscape.
It is, and it affects all of us.
So stay curious and stay informed.
Thanks for listening.
See you next time.
News Talk on Samar News, your go-to podcast for the latest headlines and in-depth discussions. Join us as we unravel the stories that matter most, bringing you insightful commentary and expert analysis. Tune in for a thought-provoking conversations that spark dialogue and inspire action. Stay connected with the news that shapes our world, only on News Talk on Samar News.